special treat. Why neurodivergence changed the world. This guy's neurodivergent. Raise your hand if you know who he is. I can't see you anyway, but I'm sure everyone's raising your hand. This is Simon Sinek. He is ADHD, and he's brilliant, in part because he says, start with why. So when presenting, it's a good idea to start with why, and so I shall. Well, my why was actually on slide 1 to tell you why neurodivergence changed the world, and have changed the world. Here I am, and I'll tell you just briefly about me. I myself am neurodivergent, autistic ADHD, aka ADHD. That's me. This photo is taken by my CEO of Haystack, the sponsor of this conference. And as you can tell, she is incredibly talented at photo composition, among so many other things. I can't even, I'd be here all day long. My brain is wired differently, and I've always known it, but didn't always know why or how. I wondered why I see North Stars other people don't see. I wondered why I see ideas and other people aren't seeing those. I wondered how to communicate those ideas effectively, and I spent 46 years struggling to figure out how to communicate better, empathize better, and help people see those North Stars. And that's when I self-identified. Of course, it was 6 days after a diagnosis where I was just super confused. Like, doc, help me out. Give me 3 books to read, and 3 books, not 1, 3. That's, of course, a very autistic response. Give me 3 books to read, please. Maybe I'll get it. And it was while reading the second one, 6 days later, that my jaw went through the floor below that, crashed into the earth, bounced against the mantle. Oddest thing I've ever experienced other than my partner. And here I am, sitting before you today, autistic, because in that moment, the tranquility and new identity washed over me. One more thing about me, I'm CTO of Haystack Unlimited, which is a company changing the world. We'll talk about that later. Harking back to why neurodivergence changed the world. This here is a potentially neurodivergent person. He is Dr. Howard Gardner. And in the 1980s, this guy, a Harvard researcher, developed an amazing theory. Everyone always knew that there were different types of intelligences, but he didn't, the world didn't quite know how to say that. Yes, there was the IQ test, but we all know that that's a very limited view of what some people call intelligence. Well, he calls intelligence something quite different. His theory says that people possess multiple intelligences, not just one, and that a person can develop in all of the intelligences, but to different levels of competence. Makes sense. I think we can all pretty much agree with that. At least these days, now that his theories are out there and fairly well observed. He defines intelligence as, quote, the capacity to solve problems or to fashion products that are valued in one or more cultural setting. Pretty powerful view of intelligence. And of course, we all possess intelligence in various levels and in different areas. we'll talk about the different areas in the next slide. But one last thing about Dr. Gardner is that at the time, he hadn't completely proved it. He's done a lot of research, and it was a hypothesis. But since then, neurobiology investigations and studies have supported all of his assertions that cognitive functions supporting these 9 areas of intelligence take place in different parts of the brain, and so it just makes sense that they're distinct and separate. And there you have it. I'll say nothing for a few moments just to let you absorb. I didn't create this visualization, but I really like it, in part because all those people are neurodivergent. But moving on. We're going to talk about each type of intelligence and highlight a couple of neurodivergent people, one from antiquity and one from more recently. The point here is to illustrate through the use of photos and or drawings that neurodivergent people really do change the world. So rather than saying exactly how I'm going to prove it, I'm just going to show you photos, and you'll either nod and smile and say, yep, I get it, I agree, or you'll say, yeah, Mark, you just didn't really do a good job, but we'll see how things go. Especially in the Q&A section, feel free to say, hey, Mark, you did a terrible job. All right, so we're going to start with intrapersonal intelligence. This is intelligence to know thyself from within. And of course, this guy, there he is, know thyself. There's no better person for this slide than know thyself. And of course, he was diagnosed with autism when he was really, really little. Oh, wait. Never mind. No, he wasn't. That's anachronistic to say that he was diagnosed. No such thing as autism back then, but everyone knew this guy was somehow different. Somehow very different. How about Maya Angelou? This wonderful lady was a poet, singer, autobiographer, civil rights activist. She presents here she presents always with this level of beauty and the call to action. Her most famous work is I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings, which is an autobiography about her childhood. The book is a testament to her need for resilience in the face of discrimination, as she was not very well known, but she had a lot of traumatic experiences and selective mutism, which is a feature of autism, or at least a feature highly correlated with autism. And now we have a different type of intelligence. We have this idea of spatial intelligence. So we have Michelangelo. If he's not a perfect example of spatial intelligence, and of course diagnosed ADHD, oh no, again, antiquity, darn it. ADHD, autistic, most likely, at least according to psychologists who often said so. This guy was a true spatial genius. And then there's Stephen Wiltshire. Maybe you've heard about this guy who, prior to beginning this pencil drawing, or maybe it's a pen. Yeah, that's a pen. This pen drawing, prior to this, he was taken on a helicopter ride over New York City. And his ability to spatially and visually memorize all of his if you look closely, you can see individual dots, and they compared this drawing to the actual videography that he was looking at through his window. And so after, of course, they didn't share the videography with him. After the fact, they compared all of the tiniest little details, and it's perfect. Stephen here is wearing headphones in part because he's autistic, and that really helps him concentrate, but also in part because that's how he prefers to draw. Next up, we have naturalistic intelligence. Once again, doing our best here to start with somebody from antiquity and going forward in time to someone more recent, maybe more relatable. We have Benjamin Banneker, a very well-known naturalistic genius. And Chris Packham, TV star, but also recognized not just for being an autistic genius, but also for his ability to understand and know most everything about natural systems. The guy is just ridiculous. Ridiculously amazing. And musical intelligence. From antiquity, pretty much pick any famous musician, but, I decided to choose one that, was back then taking a selfie. We've got Mozart and, a little bit of artistic license here to create a little humor, perhaps. And more recently, Lady Hawk came out as autistic ADHD, a singer-songwriter and instrumentalist. Beautiful. Existential intelligence. That intelligence that speaks to philosophy. Why are we here, and to what is here, and what is the universe? Anything that has to do with existence, whether it's sort of on a philosophical realm or on a physical realm, belongs here. And of course, you have to mention Carl Sagan. Billions and billions of stars. And the autistic Greta Thunberg. The planet is in an existential crisis. I mean, she's been systems thinking about existence and the planet since she was a little girl. How is this possible? Her autistic brain is just wired that way. And now, interpersonal intelligence. This is the intelligence of working with others, of playing with others, of being with others. This is my pick for the all-time interpersonal genius. He was widely considered to be autistic, ADHD, voracious reader, writer, statesman. While Britain did not recognize American independence, at first, Franklin's neurodivergent mind-body, that whole part of him believed with every ounce of his being that he could convince France, and he did it single-handedly, to recognize America's independence. So he wrote letters, and then he traveled there and made it happen. This resulted in an alliance with the 13 states in 1778, and Britain conceded and recognized the United States as well. And if that's not interpersonal intelligence, I certainly don't know what is. And there's this guy, the Richard Branson, interpersonal genius. Little known fact, not only is he dyslexic, but he convinced LinkedIn to add dyslexic thinking as a skill that you can claim or others can rate you high in. That might out you as dyslexic. Anyway, I don't know how it works, but the point is, he was a school dropout at age 15. now owes his resounding success to dyslexia. In fact, in an interview called How Dyslexia Made Me, he said, quote, "I suspect I would have had a much more conventional life, but because I was dyslexic, I thought, there's no way I can actually do that with that disability." There you have it. Body kinesthetic intelligence is next. Neurodivergent people everywhere here. But let's take on Theogenes of Thasos, if I'm even pronouncing it wrong, which I'm probably not. I don't speak Greek. It's Greek to me. Stole a giant metal statue as an 8-year-old. And then, of course, he was tried and he was about to be put to death, but they decided, if you can get it back up on the pedestal where you stole it from, you'll avoid death. And he did it. He went on to become one of the greatest athletes in history with that kind of mental focus, strength, and cunning. I mean, that's really what it took to get it back up there, is part strength, part cunning. Different thinking for sure. How can he not be autistic? You see, I've just diagnosed him without the ability to do so. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist. And more recently, we have the dyslexic Magic Johnson, owing his success in part to his neurodivergent brain. Yeah, that slide gives you a headache if you're not a mathematician. If you are, you're like, wait, that's not true. That's generated by AI. It's completely ridiculous. You might be right. I didn't look at it. But I'm not a mathematical genius. I'm going to talk about one who is, though. This guy, Alan Turing. Okay, I should have gone a little bit further back in history and chosen Leibniz or Isaac Newton or someone, but I'm such a big fanboy of Alan Turing that I decided not to go that far back in antiquity. A lot of us may know some of his story from Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal in the 2014 film, The Imitation Game. Highly recommend it. Great, great, great flick. The highlight, unfortunately, is in part his sexuality, but because he was gay and he was discriminated against because of that. But he was one of the most brilliant mathematicians, computer scientists, and cryptanalysts of all time. He was instrumental in cracking the German Enigma code during the Second World War, and the Allies owe their success in part to him. In no small part, his calculations saved millions of lives. They were able to prevent the Germans from, destroying a lot of cities and so on, preventing these attacks before they ever occurred, and progressing very quickly towards peace as a result of cracking that code. He's also attributed as an inventor of the modern computer. You're seeing there his invention. Therefore, he's also an architect of how we live and communicate today. That's not changing the world. Yeah. Again, I'm just flabbergasted by these folks. Lesser known, though, for being autistic and ADHD. His face now adorns the back of a 50-pound banknote, showing just how much of an impact his work continues to have on all of our lives. And of course, there's this guy. I mean, to wear hair like that, you've got to be neurodivergent, right? Okay, just kidding. We all know who that is. I don't need to delay us further. And one more bonus in logical mathematical, because I'm a true nerd in the technical software space. The king of all Pythonistas, that's the Python programming language term for a person who writes Python or reads Python, or is in fact just a fan of Python as a programming language. The self-proclaimed Uh, what was it they sold? Wait, it's never mind, I forget exactly, but he was essentially the king of the language and controlled the language from a very heartfelt and noble way, quite objective despite being subjective. Guido van Rossum, autistic and ADHD. Linguistic intelligence. I know perhaps the greatest linguistic. Man, I'm terrible today. Pronunciation. No pronunciation intelligence over here. I know a guy who is perhaps the greatest linguistic intelligence of all time, autistic ADHD. No mentions of names, but we're going back in antiquity. Emily Dickinson. Autistic, almost certainly, with intense focus on poetry and other literary forms. I'm a big fan. And J.K. Rowling, who changed the world with her Harry Potter series. If you haven't read them, they're really amazing for youngsters and oldsters alike. ADHD is J.K. Rowling, and she owes her different thinking to that neurodivergency. All right, guys, let's switch gears a little bit to wrap things up. What about collective intelligence? Okay, I get it. It's not intelligence within one mind body, but rather within a many, great many mind bodies as they get together and from a neurodiversity perspective makes them amazing. Collective intelligence and neurodiversity go hand in hand. With that said, we're Haystack. Collective intelligence? Oh yeah, we got that. But first, before I introduce the team, I'm going to talk about what we do. Yeah, that's why we named ourselves Haystack Unlimited. If the needle in the haystack is an autistic person, and of course you've met one person when you've met one autistic person, you're unlimited. Okay, technically only hundreds of millions, but anyway, almost unlimited needles in the haystack. So what do? We help those who want talent find talent who are autistic. And of course, our solution works for anyone, but we're starting with autistic people in part because universal design is so important to us, and designing with accessibility in mind is truly key to changing the 80% unemployed and underemployed statistic that's true for autistic people. This is our CEO, the amazing Shelley Tanner, who will be speaking tomorrow. I know there's a God mode. I'm not going to switch screens, so don't click it, but I just hope I did a good job there. So Shelley Tanner is our CEO. Stay tuned tomorrow for her to speak. It'll be amazing. Promise. And now the rest of the team, there they are. Take a look. You can reach out to those folks on LinkedIn. Just type them in. Or you can go to the Haystack Unlimited LinkedIn company and click on people. You should be able to find everybody there. Fantastic.